one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. The podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community. We find the saltiest stories, the saltiest posts. We put them in our mine cart, and we bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined with my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. So, hey, guys.
What up, what up, what up?
Hey, guys.
And before we go any further into the mine, we're going to... I don't know why I said it that way.
I was
you know why I said it that way?
I do not know why.
I do not know.
You said it that way.
I literally said it that way so I could buy time while I bring up this file. So I can read the patrons. You know, we got to shout them out, our nice tier patrons. And this week we have Alex Ballix, Crean Bean, Hephaestus Bolts, Prime Speaker Florian, Yef Judge, Accidental TPK, Royal Flood, and Digi Mans. Thanks for being so nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
You're so nice. You're so kind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keeping the lights on over in Howling Salt Mine
In the mine.
headquarters.
In the mine.
Yeah.
Yep, down in there.
Providing the kerosene for our lamps.
Are we using kerosene lamp? That's got to be an OSHA issue.
It's a fucking mine. It still exists. Oh, it's definitely an OSHA issue. Don't you worry about that. But, you know, that's what we do.
Yeah, I will say it was probably an error on our part to put the headquarters of Howling Salt Mine in the mine. Like, it could have been at the entrance of the mine, but like for some reason
Where's the fun
put
in
it
that,
there,
you know?
Yeah. Well, we needed the reverb, the natural reverb for our recording sessions.
Yeah, that's true.
And the humidity is perfect for my dewy skin. So I just got back from SCG Con Hartford.
Oh yeah. Tell us about that.
And it was super fun. So I zipped down for the day. Just a little convention. If people don't know what SCG Con Hartford is, Star City Games, it's their like line of conventions that they do throughout the year. And they just so happen to have one in Hartford, Connecticut. So the best part about it is that it was super close. A bunch of my friends were there. And it was free entry, which was pretty fucking dope.
Yeah, that's cool.
For like everybody?
Yeah, it's just free entry. I mean, if you want to do events and stuff, you got to pay. And there's like a command zone.
Who does those?
You know, I was just there to jam games and pal around with friends. So I shot down just for a day. Alan was going to be there. Our buddy CJ from the Ramp Gang was coming up from New York. And our buddy Useless Knowledge, John, who you know, Mike. Tony, you haven't had a chance to meet John yet, but John's super cool. And he was coming up from New Jersey for the day. And a bunch of other friends were there, like Ian was there, Comedian MTG, Louis Stardust was there. People drove up from Philly, so, you know, I was able to chill with them and stuff. So I get down there, and immediately we just rip an awesome cEDH game. So I wanted to talk about this because it has, like, literally one of the craziest ends to a cEDH game I've witnessed. So I'm on Nick's Animar deck.
Boss's Oracle demonic consultation win.
No. You wait. What are you, a casual? Come on. Every game ends with Thassa's Oracle. Well, this one, we'll see. I'm going to be eating my words in a minute. Oh, man. So I'm playing Nick's Animar deck because last time we all hung out, he left it and Alan snagged it. So I'm just, doing Animar things, super fun. John is on, he's on a Malcolm Bruce Tarl build, which is pretty fun. And I'm playing with Cop, who's a creator, also known as Steven. And Steven is on an Amanatu deck, which was really interesting. One of Fervent Alchemist's lists, one of Kai's lists. And then we're playing with one of our new friends for the weekend. Their name was Montana. They were playing a Krark Sakashima list.
They didn't matter. Fuck them, right?
They
Fuck
actually,
you, fourth player.
dude, all four players mattered this game a lot. So the game's getting long in the tooth. We're going around. It's like late turns. I have a pretty dope board state. I tried to do the Ancestral Statue combo, but got blown out with some well-timed removal. But I was able to get like a Slappy Hands on board. What is that thing?
Wandering Archaic.
Yeah, Wandering Archaic on board. So I had like a pretty good like setup going on with like protection and, copying spells and shit like that. John goes for the win, miscounts his mana, poor guy, and does not, just is like one red mana shy from doing the Glinthorn Buccaneer combo with Malcolm. And then it goes to Steven's turn, and Steven just passes. And earlier in the game, Steven played a Aether Vial. Now, if you don't know what Aether Vial is, I will read it.
Great card.
Really, really interesting card. So Aether Vial is a 1 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on it, and then you can tap it, and you can put a creature card with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Aether Vial from your hand onto the battlefield. So he had played it earlier, and we were sort of like, why is it in the list? And he kind of talked about it. He's like, I'm still not sure why this is in the list, but I just didn't want to make any changes off of Kai's list. So, we're just kind of doing things. He had played Amanatu earlier, and it got removed. So he's just sort of not like a great board state. So it gets over to the Kark Sakashima player's turn, and they're going off. They get a Jeska's Will, and Jeska's Will with Kark Sakashima is like pseudo ad nause, basically. Like you're just getting so many cards, getting a shit ton of mana, feeding that back in, recasting it. Like you're hoping to get a copy back to your hand, and basically just like go crazy with value. So they're popping off. We're getting some well-timed counter spells in, but not really enough to stop, but like enough to like slow down. So at a certain point, Steven is like, I do have some interaction that I could use. I have a demonic consultation to go like look for something. And we're kind of talking about like when the timing would be right for that. So we get into this crazy stack battle. There's like Kark and Sakashima triggers on the stack.
Classic.
There's like a ton of copied triggers because of my Wandering Archaic. John is like ripping.
Oh, right.
John had like 3 draw engines on board and was just ripping all of his interaction. So the stack gets like heavy. So at this point, Montana needs to get another counterspell and has like 10 cards in exile. And it's just like, okay, I have 2 cards in hand, 10 cards in exile. I don't even care about the cards in hand anymore, but I need blue mana because they had so much red, but no blue. So they crack an LED to discard their hand. And then they go to cast a Mind's Desire because Storm Count was like 12 or 14 or something crazy. So basically, like they were about to value to a point where they were going to win the game. Cast the Mind Desire. They all go on the stack. And Steven is like, I think now is my opportunity. And we were like, yeah, definitely. Steven cast Demonic Consultation. And we were like, sweet. And Steven's like, does that resolve? And we were like, yeah, that resolves. They're like, what are you going to name? And Steven's like, I name Black Lotus or whatever. Like, just name something that wasn't in their deck, exiles their entire deck, activates the Aether Vial, and puts a Thassa's Oracle into play.
Of course.
It was like, we were just like, oh, that's why it's in the deck.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing in there.
It was the cheekiest win, like to just flash in a Thassa's Oracle on top of this crazy thing. So yeah, sure, the game did end in a Thassa's Oracle, but holy shit, man, the style points were like
about
through
the journey.
roof.
It's about how you got there, not
exactly
where it was.
So wait, just to clarify, it was a Thassa Oracle Demonic Consultation
and Aether Vial.
I think you're taking the wrong moral of the story here, Tony.
Yeah,
I'm
don't know
just
what to tell
double checking, from a little bit earlier when I was like actually making a joke, and then it actually was just.
Well, that's why I kind of started to bite my tongue earlier, because I realized that, oh wait, it does actually end that way. But there's an Aether Vial there too. How often do you see that? But very,
just
very
another
rarely.
cEDH player fucking playing Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation.
Man, are you just playing with power comments on YouTube right now? That's what people say all the time, dude.
Love that.
The rest of the day, we were just jamming games. I got to hang out with Captain Cross, our lovely patron, who was up in the area, and we like chilled and had a really awesome game where he crushed me with Earl the Miststalker. I also got to play with Snapcaster V, who's a new patron of ours and has just been somebody that I keep bumping into on Twitter and in Discords and stuff. Had an awesome time jamming with Vaughn. And then who else did we see? Also got to see Casual EDH Enjoyer, who is a friend on Instagram and a very, very early, like day one Howling Salt Mine fan. And dude, he like lost his mind when he saw me and flipped out and gave me big hugs and made me feel really, really cool. So shout out to you, dude.
Does he have a timestamp?
Oh, from like when
for
he
that
started
initial
listening?
download? Yep.
I don't know. I could probably
Because I don't believe it otherwise. Can't be early.
Chase it back.
I want proof. That's the only way.
As much as he was excited to see me, he did say something about being glad that you weren't there, Tony. I don't know. It was weird. It was kind of a weird comment, but I was like,
It's
yeah, it
just
makes
so
sense.
specific
That is weird.
of
Yeah.
him to say that.
Yeah.
So the other story I have, so I've been playing this Emoti deck, right? I've fucking talking about it so much. People have heard about it in like the last like 5 or 6 episodes. It was the Secret Santa, like Howling Salt Mine Patreon deck exchange deck I got. I've been talking about it in regards to like how long the turns are, how I'm trying to become a better pilot with it, all this kind of stuff. So I'm playing it and we sit down in this pod and I'm like, I want to play this. And we're talking about it. I'm like, yeah, it's a $50 deck, but it's like pretty busted. And I will say I haven't lost a game with it yet. These are fucking cursed words that left my mouth, man. I doomed myself.
You were just telling
in
the
that
truth,
moment.
though. That was
I truly
just the
was.
truth.
I truly was. So we start playing, and also like to even curse it further, we were having like a big conversation about mulligans, and you know how I am. I was like
completely cursed.
I was like, well, I would rather go down to 5 than keep a bad 6, and just like keep saying that shit, right? Just totally setting myself up for failure and like a big dose of karma. So I do have to mulligan down to 5, and I don't want to go any lower. I end up having like 2 islands in my opener, and I do have some like green ramp, but I just need to get to a forest. And I'm like, whatever. It's not a horrible hand. Like chances are I do hit a forest. I don't want to mulligan down to 4, and I'd rather keep like a 2-lander 5 hand than like a 0-lander 4 hand that could potentially be coming. So I play my island. Things go around. I draw another island. I play another island. The turns continue to pass from turn 1 through 6. All I did was draw and play islands. and I continued to just top deck islands and literally did nothing that game. The last thing that happened was John cracked a wheel. He had a Mages of the Wheel on board, and he cracked it, and I ditched my hand and drew a fresh hand. The first 2 cards I drew on that fresh hand, 2 more islands. And then I finally got a forest, and I just lost that game. I got killed before I could literally do anything. Like the game just
shuffle,
ended.
Dude?
Yeah, dude.
That
like
sounds awful.
It was like there was a stack of 9 islands in a row in that deck. The one thing I did was counter something at one point. Like I had a negate in hand, and I was like, hey, I still affected the game, but I did literally nothing except play islands. And I was like, I fucking cursed myself. I was bragging that I've never lost. I was talking about the mulligan process and why I'm like so, high and mighty about it and all that shit. And I just got like absolutely my comeuppance.
Yeah.
It was the worst performing I've ever had a deck. And just like the biggest a deck has ever memed on me by just giving me island to the point where like the table was like, if you draw an island on the next turn, just find a forest in your deck and play it. Like they wanted to break the rules of the game to make me feel better about shit, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so bad, but it was really, really funny.
Would you say that it made you salty?
Ooh. Tony, not really.
Oh.
It was mostly just very funny.
Well, what is salt?
Oh, wow. We're just hitting it. We're just going right into it, huh?
Yeah. How was that not
I
salt?
had that fucking great transition, and then you gotta like come on me like that. Come on, bro. It's rare that it's actually
quality.
Good. Yeah,
It was quality. I was there for it.
Thank you.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm not here
You're
for
fucking
it.
trash.
Here.
Define it.
Salt is. Oh, first of all, thank you, Tony, for asking.
Better.
I do appreciate that you did do a transition, though. I do, even though it wasn't great, wasn't your best work, but it's still pretty good.
You suck. The fans at home are fucking cheering right now. They heard that transition and they're like, God, where is this? The prodigal son has arrived.
They're standing up from their chairs and just applauding, crashing on the highway.
Absolutely.
Standing up from their driver's seat.
Yeah.
Hands off the wheel, going through the sunroof and clapping.
Yeah, for sure.
Salt is frustration in the game. Salt is when, there's a mismatch of power at the table. Somebody's playing a Thassa's Oracle demonic consultation combo in your pre-con game. Salt is when your deck absolutely sucks and does not perform well, and you bragged a lot about how it's a good deck, and the fates just wanted to prove you wrong. Salt is maybe when someone's a little bit angry or the vibe is just off. That can be like an example of little grains of salt. Nothing necessarily is bad in the game, but things just feel off and a little bit strange. It's not a relaxed game. It's tense. Salt can also be somebody just getting absolutely tilted, scooping at instant speed, and chucking their cards across the room. We're really here to talk about the full range of salt, because we like to think it's an umbrella term here in the Howling Salt Mine. So we're going to be talking about the little grains of salt all the way up to those big, full shakers of salt. So we can learn from salt and hopefully not be salty in a future game.
Them big boy shakers.
Big shaky shakes.
Dem big boy shakers.
Dem shaky shakes.
Well, should we get into it, guys? I got some stories here.
Let's do it.
Lay it on me.
All right, I will. I will lay it right on you.
Well, actually, give it 1 second. Let the people sit down from their, applauding
Yeah,
that
they
they're
were
just
standing.
doing.
Get back in the car.
Yeah. Get in your carts, folks. Settle down.
Yep. Re-rack your weights if you're at the gym.
And don't drop them.
They were clapping with the weights in hand, dude.
Yeah, that's how you get swole, bro.
Clacking
You just gotta
plates together. Yeah. 10 sets of heavy applauds.
Yeah.
So this first one comes to us from our friend Dan, and this is a website submission. From our beautiful, lovely website, howlingsaltmine.com or thehowlingsaltmine.com. That can be where you submit your shit, so we read it on the show.
Submit your stories. We don't need any other kind of submissions.
Fair. Yeah, that is fair.
Don't mail us anything.
Yeah, don't be. Yeah, I think that's an offense, a criminal offense, man. And this post is titled "My Way of Dealing with a Cheater," and it goes, "Hey guys, longtime listener and first time caller. Love the podcast, and I've got a half salty story, half salty confessional. For the last few months, we've had a player who comes to regular commander nights only when a specific member of our group can attend, as they're longtime friends. I started suspecting some issues after more than a few unnaturally good starts to games, and on another game night in back-to-back games, there was a timely fetch crack during an upkeep, and they ripped the exact perfect card off the top of their library during the draw step. Normally, I'd shake it off as bad beats, but during one of these games, I was told, I don't like your decks, so I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure you don't win. I was saltier than a Long John Silver's friar after a long day. So I watched and waited, and it kept happening. So I'd had enough of being my nice, jovial self in games with him. That brings us to our most recent game night. After 4 games of issues, for example, turn 1 Soul Ring in 3 out of 4 games, catching missed payments for spells, and even an accidental draw 2 during a draw step.
Oh, accidental, huh?
That's not something that happens
not
accidentally.
possible.
No.
Yeah. You don't pick up 2 cards and you're like, feels like 1 card.
Yeah.
Looks like 1 card too. Can't believe I drew 2 1 cards.
It's like sometimes I think on a very rare occasion I've knocked a card off the top of the deck, but I've never drawn 2 cards into my hand and been like, whoops.
Yeah, like the act of drawing a single card, I don't know, like you would just, it'd be so obvious that a second one came in.
Unless you got really sticky sleeves.
Oh, those sleeves are just stuck together.
Yeah, it does say that they were eating honey out of a pot like Pooh Bear. So, a little smackerel of honey on there.
Fucking Pooh Bear.
Oh, bother.
Oh, bother. I'm going to say that whenever I get salty now. Oh, bother. Oh, man. All right, let's keep going. So after all this crazy cheating, He pulled out his Paco and Halden Partners deck, insisting that it wasn't that kind of deck.
Hey, it is though.
In short, it was that kind of deck. And he had another turn 1 Soul Ring and powered out a Paco that was hitting for 10 plus. I was playing my General Ferris Rokrick all gold spells deck and had a decent board. Oh, Nick built a deck like that. That's a really cool one. Just make a shit ton of golems. After an all-out swing out at the life gain player to bring his life back within striking distance, I was left open for attacks with 3 cards in hand as the player started his turn. I mused, man, I can't believe that I didn't leave any blockers up for Paco. I think you can kill me if you've got an extra combat spell. He smiled. So normally I don't pre-read these. I have read this one, so I'm adding some inflection that I know is leading.
It's making it better.
A little foreshadowing, you know?
Yeah.
He smiled and said, well, that wasn't the plan, but now that you say it, and he looked nervously around the board. So I reiterated, yeah, I guess the thing is, I have enough power on board to kill you on my next turn, so I understand the attack. He relented and swung away with Paco, 13 commander damage, extra turn spell, and Paco swings in again for another 16, and all would be said and done. And I say, before damage, I cast Deflecting Palm, choosing Paco, and redirect it back at you. He sat for a second in silence. You baited me into that attack, didn't you? All I said was, yep. And the table laughed, and he was beside himself, bubbling under the surface. I feel like that was unfair. Can I change targets the second time? Ha! No. The resources have been spent, and the information has been given and all that. It's tough breaks. Taking the hit put me sub 10, so I just had to go for it. Thrilling discovery, rip a chance for glory off the top, and Winota in those cards. Cast both and swung away, rip some nice cards off the top, and kill the table just in time. Was I a bad person for baiting the attack? Probably. Do I regret giving in to the salt? Absolutely not. P.S. Still in the camp that bad/cheating magic is better than no magic, so I haven't come forward to many others about this player yet. Love you guys. Keep up the salty work.
Wow, it's a great post, and then they drop that bombshell of a take at the end too.
Yeah,
there's so much to talk about.
Yeah. I think I'd rather just sit around and talk than play a bad game of Magic. Like, there's a lot of shit I'd do than play against a cheater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless the cheater is cheating to make the game funnier, then maybe. Like if they're cheating all their group hug stuff into play, like whatever, I'll take it.
If it gives Mike an advantage, he's like, then it's okay.
If I can take advantage of it. No, I don't think you're bad for baiting stuff. I think like people are sometimes a little reluctant to use politics with people they don't know super well or like have just played with in a public setting, which is just kind of fair. I think it's like kind of awkward. But there's nothing wrong with it too. Like you can totally do this. You can totally lead someone into thinking like that.
And it's relatively innocent, you know. Yeah. And sometimes like I definitely baited someone in a pod before, but it was a 5-player pod. It was actually I was playing at work. 5-player pod. And the person worked for me actually. And it literally was like they had enough on board to like kill me if they hit
the destruction of
they
trust,
had enough
Tony.
to kill me on board. And it was like going to be a hard hit. It was one of those, like, he was going to swing in for like 20 damage, something like that. So I would have been killed. And I was like, do it! Fucking do it! Swing! And I get him to swing. And then I ink shielded. And I just like got like a bazillion little inklings. But part of it too was like, I was like, we're going to be here for another like long while. I needed to go. And so I was like, yeah, this is the right choice for life right now. Like, we'd already been there for a while. And so then I just ended it after that turn, which was, I think, overall the best play to make.
I think if you have those types of cards that are intended to like turn around the state of the board, like Deflecting Palm, Ink Shield, Comeuppance, things like that, like you do need to set it up a little bit. Like, I don't think it's bad play or bad manners or anything like that to bait an attack in when you have an effect like that. Like, you want to look a little bit weak so that you can pull that surprise, because those are gotcha cards and they're best played when there's a big payoff like that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's like how they play.
Exactly. Ink Shield's a great one, man. Actually, at SCG Con, Alan ink shielded me. I was attacking him with like a fully loaded up Rogue Rack in my Rogue Rack Ardennes deck, and he hit an ink shield. But I had a Leonin Shikari on board, so you can equip things at instant speed. And I took all the equipment off of Rogue Rack. I think had to leave one on, so he got a single inkling from it instead of like 14. It was hilarious.
That would be so sad. I would be so sad if I was gonna do that.
It was so good, dude. I was like, this card earned its place in the deck just by doing this.
Yeah.
But like we used to play with Brett all the time. We haven't talked about Brett in a long time. Who was like the sixth member of our group. And Brett consistently would play these Aikido decks where, it's like using your opponent's force against them. And it was always packed with like Disrupt Decorum, Comeuppance, all of these different things that would like take a big juicy board state and flip it on its head. And a big part of it was looking like you were open, looking like you were weak, and waiting for that perfect time to cast those spells. And I think if you politic a little bit and, do a speech play, as we like to say, and make that shit happen, then that's totally valid. And even better to do it to someone who's a big fucking cheater and put them in their place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe they just naturally drew that soul ring every time, though. Who knows?
So in stories like this, I always have to wonder, like, are people cutting decks in stores, right?
I wonder that too.
I feel like I always am doing cuts with people when I play at cons and wherever, because it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's like one of the fun parts of being able to play in person is you got this little ceremony, right, where you finish the randomization. Like, are people cutting that guy's deck?
Yeah. And it's fun. You have to be like, how often are we like, give me a good one on this one? Or, like I have Tony cut it, and then I draw my next hand and it's bad. And I'm like, you don't get to cut it anymore. And I have Mike cut it. You know what I mean? Like there's like funny little superstitious moments you can have with people cutting your decks.
You also can just be the one that initiates it. And you can pop your deck over on their mat and be like, give me a cut.
Yeah,
and then
totally.
9 times out of 10, I think people respond in kind and are just like, okay, yeah, you can cut my deck too. Or ask you to cut their deck. Like it's like the natural order. And to be honest, if somebody doesn't do that, then I'm kind of like, well, maybe you are cheating. Like what's going on?
Yeah. Usually if someone doesn't let me cut or they already have a hand, I just make a joke. I'll be like, well, if you win, we know why, because you didn't let anyone cut your deck.
Yeah.
And then if they're cheating and they do win, then it's, you can really lean back on that joke. Be like, hey, remember that thing I said?
Yeah, for sure.
So first of all, I think we're all like in accordance here. I think this is totally fair play. You did the right thing. Like this is fine. I do want to stress that you should probably talk to your group about your suspicions of this person cheating.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you have that much ammo about it. Like the drawing 2 cards in the draw step, we talked about it earlier, but that's the one that sticks out to me the most. Like mispaying for spells, maybe that happens sometimes. Turn 1 soul rings, it's whack to have. He said 3 out of 4 games, and after the story, it's really 4 out of 5 games. Like that's crazy odds for that to happen, but could potentially happen. But the other things, like unless this person is playing so sloppy, it just seems like pretty obvious cheating. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would push you to talk about it with your friends. If you have that much ammunition about it,
for sure.
You can mention it. It doesn't sound like this is someone that the poster. What are we calling it? These
Postee?
The postee,
the submitter, the submittee,
the sub.
The sub of this dom relationship.
I mean, I think collar is fair. People have said collar.
Collar.
He literally says long time listener, first time caller. So okay. I mean, I guess
best pick up the phone, bro. Like I ain't got no call right now.
Like it doesn't sound like the caller here knows this person too well, just like plays the odd game with them. So sometimes it's not worth it. Like if this is a person you see like 5 times in your life, like once every
but they're
like
cheating
2
every
months.
time you see them. Like you're kind of like
then you start cheating. No, don't do that.
No.
Wait, I can counter their cheating if I cheat.
Yeah,
you're right, Sam. Thanks.
Yep, then no one's cheating.
Exactly.
You're just playing a different game.
Just play a turn 1 soul ring and a turn 2 soul ring.
Yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about.
Play a Tinker or a Grizzlebrand.
Yeah, just Tinker for your soul ring on turn 1 after you cast with a Black Lotus. Easy. But yeah, no, I see where you're getting, Mike. Like with someone who's on the fringe of your play group, it might not even be worth bringing it up because you just see that person so rarely. And like you said, the occasional bad game of Magic maybe isn't so bad. I think if this was happening to me every single week, pretty quickly I'd be like, I don't want to play with this dude
or every
anymore.
game. If it's truly every game with someone,
yeah, every game is unacceptable.
Yeah, I feel like it gets pretty intolerable pretty quick. I don't know. There's a balance to you not having a Assault Ring every single time you play, right? Like,
yeah,
it just takes some of the fun out of it.
Not to mention the dishonesty about the Halden and Paco power level, which we didn't even comment on. Like, there's just a lot of bad, there's just a lot of like bad behaviors and manners in this post from this one player. I don't know. I would just not really want to play with them as much as I could.
Yeah. What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
it's like borderline sugar break. The cheater gets their due. Like, that's pretty nice. I love that. There's some salt in the fact that there's a cheater to begin with, but it's mostly counted out.
Yeah.
Deflected, if you will.
I was going to say, I love me a good deflecting bomb.
Dude.
Yeah.
Such a good card.
Especially with how Commander plays nowadays, there's a lot of like this one thing does like a shitload of damage to you.
Yeah.
It's like a super powerful card. I love those types of cards. They're probably like my favorite in Magic, to be honest.
Yeah, I get blown out with Rafiq a lot with those cards. And like that does happen.
And it's kind of this game of like if I get blown out by something like that, it always kind of feels good. Like it feels bad, but it's like if I was doing it as like, I'm going to fucking kill you right now. I've got like 30 damage coming at you from this one source. Like this is the thing. And then they're like deflecting bomb ? You're just like, no.
Yeah, it
like,
definitely feels
good.
like fair play. You're just like, yep, you did it. You got me. Like, that's it, man. You know, it's like super fog. Not only did you stop the damage, you also fucked me up pretty hard.
Call an ambulance.
Yeah, I love it. I agree. I think there's a lot of sugar here, specifically just the fact that they were like, can I change who I am attacking with this second attack? And it's like,
yeah, it's like settle down.
No way, dude. We're at like deal damage step. Like we're so far beyond that.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Tough breaks.
Well, give us another.
Let's do another.
Hell yeah.
So this one comes to us from Reddit. That's right, folks, from the EDH subreddit. And this one is coming to us from our buddy Quantext609. So if you see Quantext609 around the subreddits, give him an upvote because you know the drill. We want to spread that goodwill, baby.
Oh, whoa, a little riff.
I'm just riffing.
A little riff on it.
Yeah, feeling a little loose, a little free tonight, you know? Going off script.
Who said that about old dogs?
That's
a new trick for sure.
And this post is titled, Kid Figures Out That Wearing Sauron's Ring Has Consequences. And the post goes, I was at a public commander night last night at my local LGS. I love that, man. Have you guys ever heard of this thing? It's called RAS syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I feel like I have.
RAS syndrome. RAS stands for repeated acronym syndrome.
Oh,
it's like ATM machine, which is
RAS. Yeah. Did you call it RAS syndrome?
It's literally called RAS syndrome. And RAS stands for repeated acronym syndrome. So it's repeated acronym syndrome. Like the definition of it is in the name of it. It's so good.
Amazing.
And I'm guilty of this too. I always say local LGS and it's like local gaming store, you know?
Your PIN number, your personal identification number.
Yep. PIN number is a good example too. There's so many.
It's just like an LGS is like, we know what it is, but like at the same time, like it's an entity of its own at this point, you know?
It's redundant acronym syndrome. Like DC Comics is another one because DC stands for Detective Comics. So it's Detective Comics. LCD display, UPC code, all those kinds of things. PUBG Battlegrounds, I guess, is one too. Because PUBG stands for Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. All right. Anywho, let's keep going. So I was playing at a Commander night last night at my local LGS. I don't have a consistent play group yet, but there are a few people I like playing with there when they're present.
Nice.
I joined a group with one guy I knew and liked playing with, and another who I didn't know but was friendly. Then a kid joined us, probably in his early to mid-teens, and we shuffled up. I was playing Archangel Avacyn Control. The first guy was playing Onyxia, Hand of Erebos Enchantments. The other guy was playing Sliver Queen Slivers, and this kid was playing Dihada, Binder of Wills, Ring Tempting. The little ring tempting theme. Early on, the Dihada kid plays the One Ring, which I'm not surprised by. It's a good card. It fits into any deck, but it does have that consistent life loss. So Dihada kid starts activating the One Ring and drawing a lot of cards, but no one is making enough headway in the game to end it fast enough. Both Sliver Guy and Onyxia Guy had points where they were almost about to win before a board wipe stopped them. The game dragged out while Dihada Kid's life slowly ticked away. It got to the point where it was clear that the ring was becoming a problem. It had 4+ counters on it, and he was in the 20s with his life total. Dihada Kid had nothing that could exile or sacrifice the ring. So he started begging the other players to exile it for him. We explained to him.
That's it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, buddy.
We explained to him that there wasn't any reason for us to remove the ring, but even if we did want to, we didn't have anything until the Onyxia guy played Seal from Existence. But he got rid of my Immortal Sun instead, which the Immortal Sun was locking down Dihada. When that was eventually destroyed, Dihada Kid exiled Onyxia guy's massive graveyard and instantly regretted it because it permanently removed the one way that the ring could have been removed. By the end, he was desperate. He was activating the ring and got up to 6 counters by the end of the game. He played Call of the Ring, and we joked that we've been trying to call you about your ring's extended warranty. It's not going away. While we occasionally threw some small creatures his way, the ring was what killed him. He groaned in frustration and left the table in a huff. It was honestly one of the funniest MTG things I've ever seen because it was just like in the movies. Turns out that using the Ring of Sauron for short-term gain has long-term consequences. And there's a little addendum here. Some people in the comments were confused about why the kid didn't use Dihada's ability to give a creature lifelink to stabilize his life total. And the reason was because I had the Immortal Sun out for most of the game, and Dihada was a dead card while it was present.
Got it. Ooh, yeah.
I love when someone plays something really powerful and has their comeuppance. Like I love when that karma slaps back, dude. It just feels so good.
I feel like the classic is like dying to your mana crypt trigger.
Oh,
like,
dude, yes.
Being held
definitely.
by it, like it's sitting there and you're just like, oh no. Like I've had that happen too many times.
I think one of the most memorable mana crypt deaths that we have in our play group, Nick was playing his Mogus God of Slaughter deck, which we've talked about a bunch. We haven't talked about it in a while. It's basically group slug. It's full of tons of like tax effects and discard, and it's just a real bummer of a deck. Fun to play, makes the game fast, but it is strong. So Nick was playing it at one point and he had a mana crypt in it. And of course, you know, we're playing casual. It is high power, but we tend to groan a little bit when someone drops a mana crypt in a casual game. So we're groaning a little bit at Nick and he's like, what? It's fine, whatever. And we move past it. You know, we get to the end of the game and Nick just dies to his mana crypt trigger. Like it was so close because we were all getting whittled away with like all these group slug things. And I remember it got to his turn and he just kept losing crypt triggers. He lost I feel like he lost like 10, maybe not 10 triggers, but he lost like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 triggers that game.
Yeah.
And the last one was the thing that did him in. It was so fucking funny.
It's also kind of the thing where like his deck hurts people on their upkeep. So it's like that last turn was really critical. Like if he lives, everyone else takes a lot on their really brutal.
Also things like Descent to Avernus and stuff like that are big now. And Nick is also running that in some of his decks. I think that might be Mogus too.
I think
which is a great card.
It is.
Ramps everybody, but does damage to everybody too. And it's one of those things where like if you fly too close to the sun, or if people hit you with some damage, there might be a point where you are way lower than everybody after that stuff triggers.
Yeah. I always think it's like kind of fun though. It's like fun chaos when that shit's like happening and you're like, am I gonna die to my own shit? Like I feel like Black Market Connections is another one of those ones, right? It's like I think you can pay 9 life for all of the different modes.
I think it's 6. It's 3,
or
2,
6
and 1
life. Gotcha. but it's like foolish to not. Same thing with like an ad nause. Like half the time I'm poking at people because I want them to spend more of their life, but half the time I'm serious when I'm like, it's an ad nause. Like keep fucking going. Why is it in your deck if you're gonna stop? Like,
Yeah, it's the same with like Sylvan Library, you know? If you have a Sylvan Library in your deck, you should take the 8 to like get that value and dig through, you know? Generally speaking, you should at least be taking 4 or 8.
oh, Sylvan Library, 100%. If you don't take 8, fucking take it out of your deck. Like get out of
Unless
here.
you're gonna shuffle them away, maybe.
Yeah,
then.
unless you have a way
Yeah,
to shuffle
sure.
it away. Because
Yeah.
the thing is, if you don't take any of it with the Sylvan Library and you don't have any other card draw on board, you're gonna look at 3 cards, put 2 back, and then next turn you're gonna look at those same 2 cards again and just another card that's under it. Like it's a great way to just keep 2 kind of bad cards on top of your library and never draw through them.
Yep.
I've seen certain individuals definitely do that, where they just like they don't pay and then like they leave it there. And I'm like, fucking
Life is so hard to part with.
oh my God, literally take it out of your deck. You don't deserve it.
I'm definitely guilty of that, man. There have been some
I
times.
know you are.
Yeah.
There's definitely times where with Sylvan Library, I mean, you know, sometimes if you do take 8 one turn, you take 8 again the next turn, you get to the turn after that and you're like, I can't do this anymore because I have flown too close to the sun. That I get, you know what I mean? Like you've already got your value out of that card, but it is like a funny thing. Those triggers, man, I love the triggers that you can't deny, you know, especially like damage triggers. Like sometimes those triggers that aren't a May and you're just forced to do it, it's like such a bummer. Like if you cast a Thassa's Oracle and have Demonic Consultation and you have no cards in your library, but you have an Esper Sentinel and someone is just like, I just cast whatever just to force you to draw a card and you lose.
Yeah.
Like that.
I feel like that happens more frequently with fucking blue players because fuck blue players. I love when a blue player has a forced draw on table and like draws themselves out and like loses because of it. Like fuck you. That's what you get.
Like a Teferi's Ageless Insight and they just always have to draw 2 insteed of 1 and they're like, my deck's getting pretty small. And you're like, yeah, it really is. Interesting.
Really quite low.
I feel like that would happen sometimes in Locust God when I was running it. There's like a couple of effects that are like either when a creature enters the battlefield, draw a card, or when you deal damage, like draw a card. And then if a creature enters the battlefield, you would monitor. So like there was just loops that like I would just draw my whole deck unintentionally, and I had to be like, I can't swing right now because I will just lose the game instantly.
Yeah, it'll be too much
for
value.
how it works. Yeah.
I remember a specific one as well. Funny, another Amonkhet god, but it was Pat's Scorpion god list. He like, I think it was something that you had, Tony. It was like interacting with Xyrus or something like that. Because Scorpion God says whenever a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it dies, you draw a card. And he had something where whenever a creature comes into play, he puts a -1/-1 counter on it. So you kept making snake tokens and they were dying and he had to draw cards and he just drew himself out. Like he just decked himself. And it was just such a funny interaction because you don't, you know, he's not planning to be up against the Xyrus deck, but it just so happened. He was like, I think I go infinite here. And we were sort of looking at it. We were like, I think you actually just die.
Yeah, I think I was like, yeah, you do go infinite. Like
You go 2 infinite.
it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Unless you can like kill the Scorpion God or Xyrus or something. But so funny. I love that shit, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what do we think about the salt rating on this?
For me, it's not a super salty story, but I will say I can see the salt that kid had. And I've definitely been in that position where you play a big, powerful card, you know, maybe like Nick's Mana Crypt example. You play something cool and you're like, I'm a fucking boss. This card rules. And then, you know, late in the game, you're just like, oh God, no, like my comeuppance has come.
Yeah. You're always feeling good until you get to that point and you're like, oh shit, I'm at like 17 life and I'm going to take 6 right now from my one
own
ring.
Yeah. That's when you just got to go all in the whole time.
And then next turn, I'm going to die because that person pokes me with a 4/4. So
Yeah.
like...
Yeah.
Oh man, but that is so sugary sweet though. When you see the loss coming around, and you can just push someone over the edge. You're like, here's like a 3/3 at your face, and they're like, but then I'll take 7 on my next turn and die, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess you will.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like that's almost always how it goes down too, right? Like you already see it coming, somebody else either sees it coming or it just becomes apparent, and like they just give you the teensiest little push towards
nudge.
the edge, and then you just catapult yourself off the edge. Like,
yeah, I do love the little extra sprinkling of salt here, where there is a exile an artifact effect that then this guy, the kid, gets rid of from a graveyard too, like sealing his fate.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel for them when they were begging the table to remove it, because, like, what else are you gonna do? I'd do this. I think I have done the same thing where I'm like, please,
bro,
someone, please, bro, please, someone get rid of this thing that's gonna kill
help
me.
You, I swear.
Yes. Oh man, it's like when someone gets bit in a zombie movie and they're like, please help me, and everyone's like, we just have to lock you outside,
backing away. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all just backing away. Oh man.
Well,
you guys ready for another one here? Let's round it out.
Let's do it. Yep.
Round it out, baby.
This last story comes to us from our buddy Kago, and this is from our website, a little website submission, and this one is called Salty Steve.
Steve. You guys seen that?
It's Steve.
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 Is that like the voiceover animals?
Alan.
Yes.
Alan.
Yeah. Okay. I do know what you mean.
That's not Alan. It's Steve.
I thought for a minute you were doing the one where it's like, hey, fuck you. Like those two guys yelling at each other from across a lake.
Oh, I do know what you're talking
That's a good
about.
one
That too. God, the internet, what a glorious place.
I know, it's so good. It has also just poisoned my brain where I'm just like, I'm just like a collection of memes that walks around.
Yep, a moving meme box.
Yeah. So this one goes. This story is a few weeks in the making and involves an LGS regular. For the sake of the story, I will call him Steve. Steve is a self-proclaimed aspiring judge, despite frequently screwing up many rules interactions, which is the source of my salt in all of this. First instance, I was playing a game with my Vorel of the Hullclade all-foiled deck. Ooh, we love the bling. And was dominating the board with a loaded up Tangle Wire. I broke parity on the Tangle Wire with a Leyline of Anticipation, which allowed me to cast spells and activate abilities before I tapped all of my permanents. And the Tangle Wire had over 20 counters on it. If you guys don't know what Vorel of the Hullclade does, it doubles the number of counters that's on a permanent. So you could get the Tangle Wire up there pretty high. We'll read these in a minute.
Disgusting.
Isn't that fucking gross? The first time I read this story, I was like, is this an error? And then I looked up what Vorel does, and I was like, oh, that's fucked up, actually. Steve tries to disrupt my board by casting a spell to destroy Tangle Wire. I activate a Ring of 3 Wishes to tutor up a counterspell, and I cast it in response. Steve says, you can't do that. Once you activate the ring, you can't do any more things. The table agrees with his faulty ruling, and I don't end up countering the spell. Another instance with this player, I was playing another game with Steve and had Lightning Greaves on a creature, giving it Shroud. I go to sacrifice the equipped creature, and Steve interrupts, you can't target it. It has Shroud. Sacrificing doesn't target.
It does not.
And he says, sacrificing targets. I go, no, and even if it did, I could just move the Greaves over to another creature and then sack it. Oh well. He and I go on to target each other for the remainder of the grueling 5-person game. It is so salt-inducing to be belittled with rules corrections, in quotes, from Steve when he has never offered a correct opinion. Thanks, Kygo.
Yeah, this is salt.
This is it.
This is it right
real
here.
Salt
right here.
Yeah, this is it. Ow.
Yeah, I fucking hate this dude. So with that first one, the fact that the whole table agrees makes me like so furious. Like it's one thing for an idiot at your table to be like, hey, you can't sacrifice this, and you have to be like, no, I can. It's another when the other two people at the table are like, yeah, you can't do that, and you're like, oh my god, guys, what are we doing here? What is this? Oh.
I think you said you wanted to read some of the cards.
Oh yeah. Let's hit some of these cards real quick. I think people should just know this spicy interaction.
I don't know that they should.
Vorel of the Hullclade Costs 1, a green, and a blue, so some Simic bullshit. It's a legendary creature, human merfolk, and it's a 1/4 with an activated ability that says pay a green, pay a blue, tap it, double the number of each kind of counter on target artifact, creature, or land.
I think I need to build that deck.
Tanglewire is a lovely little stacks piece. Costs 3 mana to cast, and it has fading 4. So this artifact comes into play with 4 fading counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a fading counter from it, and if you can't, you sacrifice it. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player taps an untapped artifact, creature, or land they control for each fade counter on Tanglewire. So typically Tanglewire hits, goes to the next person's turn. They have to tap down 4 things, another 4 things, another 4 things. Back to you, it goes to 3. You tap down 3 things, and then everybody taps down 3, 2, 1, and then it's gone. But when you're doubling the counters on it and you get it to over 20 counters, you're just completely locking out the board state.
Yeah.
Which is very salty. I will say not salty enough to lie about rules interactions.
No.
And say that someone can't counter something, but that is incredibly salty, dude. Like, what a play.
That's brutal.
It's fucking brutal.
Yeah. It's making me think such bad thoughts.
Yeah, please do not build this, Tony.
Don't do it, Tony.
I really want to make a Millennium Calendar deck.
That's different. That would be fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you say now, but I'm like, oh, but this is in it because then I can like control like the ability
It would probably
to like
be a Voral deck.
Yeah, probably. Or something that untaps.
No, yeah, for sure. I want it to be this world. Like I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. This is like an old commander. Like it's been around for a while.
Yeah,
like, the double the plus one counter thing. But it just doubles the counters, right? So it's like there's a lot of interesting bullshit I could do with that. Anyway, I digress. I want to like turbo into like Millennium Calendar, kill everybody on turn like 3 or 4. Like how can I best do that is what I'm looking for right now.
In Simic, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe this is my degenerate Simic deck.
Everybody gets 1.
Yeah.
Or 2, apparently.
Well, I'm going to have like 3 or 4 soon. It's funny because I'm like building a pre-con Simic deck, but it has Voral of the Hulklade, and it's going to have Millennium Calendar in it. Just in the 99. I'm not like turboing that shit out, but it is in there.
Yeah, I want it to be the sole win con.
You know, sometimes on this show, I like read cards and Tony is super quiet afterwards, and I can tell he's like brewing evil
Gears
shit.
are churning.
It just happens.
And he's just like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my god, dude, like this is gonna be bad for us in a couple months. Have you guys ever encountered someone who's like weirdly rules lawyery like this, but always wrong?
I feel like the thing that really kills me with these things is sometimes it's on like really basic things that I know, and they question, and I question myself. I'm like, have I been doing it wrong? Do tokens not actually hit the graveyard? Am I an idiot? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, this is how it goes. And it's hard to like have that confidence in the moment of like, especially when other people start to jump on it, and you just got to really stand firm. And I think it's important to do that, even if you like know that it's like going to be more efforts or this, that, or the other thing. Cause like, all those people are now doing that in every other game they play. Like they'll take it as gospel, you know?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I've had it in any recurring fashion really, but like I've definitely seen it happen, and I do my best to stand strong in the moment, but it's not always easy.
Yeah. I do think one of the best things you can do is just be like, can you show me anything that backs that up, basically? Like, can you show me a rule? Can you show me a ruling? Can you show me something on Gatherer, or like maybe like a post, like a Reddit post with the top comment? Like maybe, but like more so like some actual stuff, because there's so much content and like judging and ruling out there that tells you a lot of stuff, and basic things are like tricky because I don't know, sometimes those don't have rulings because they're like so fundamental, but even usually those are, you're good to find something if you just do a quick search.
Yeah, I am not afraid to pause a game and look up a rule. And I think sometimes people are because they want to just keep things flowing. But if something is that wrong and that pivotal and then it's like costing you a game, be like, guys, this is important to me. I really would like to look up a ruling.
Yeah, let's just get it right.
Call over the store owner or something like that. If you're at an LGS, like they can kind of be a judge sometimes. Like there are things that you can do to push back that keeps the game flowing to some extent, but also gets you the answer that you need so you can keep moving with the correct rules in play.
I feel like at an LGS, you could also lean back in your chair and say, "Judge," and see if it works.
People will come over even if they're not judges.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's how you get your support. Like if the pod isn't providing it, you just give a little casual lean back, "Judge." See what see who's summoned with that singular word, you know.
It's just the store owner like, you got to keep it down, man. You can't keep shouting "Judge."
Dude, I do love being at like live events at like conventions where people yell "Judge" like that, because some people fucking go hard and they're like, "Judge," and you're like,
and I love when someone is like won't do it loud enough and gives it like a half-ass one, and then the person next to them is like, "Judge."
It's just like goes for it, man. But you guys did forget that Steve is an aspiring judge, so I mean, pretty much
aspiring
self-proclaimed
my ass. Like
the levels of Magic knowledge, like you got, level 3 judge, level 2 judge, level 1 judge, normal players, new players, aspiring judge. Self-proclaimed aspiring judge.
Yeah. A judge without the paperwork is just a con man.
Yeah, for real.
Just a snake oil salesman. Nah, I swear I'm a judge. I just don't have the license on me, but I swear I can practice.
Well, there you have it. What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
I mean, it's such high salt, dude. If this shit was going on in a pod with me, I would grind that game to a screeching halt and look at the exact rule and cite like the paragraph in the subsection. I would not let this moment go by. And if the entire table was like ganging up and being like, "Nah, you can't counter it," I'd be like, "I get that you guys are salty right now, but let's not bend the rules just to fucking get through my crazy tangle wire combination here." You know, like,
come on.
Yeah, like let's be real. Just scoop and we can be done.
I've literally started reading the Magic rule book recently because I was like, I feel like I want to know this stuff.
I love that.
And
you're an aspiring judge.
Yeah, self-proclaimed. It's only like 200 pages, but like the only thing that I feel like is a defense against this is like knowing your shit, which is hard to do too. Like, Tony, you were saying that like sometimes you even question like something that you're like, I know this, and it's like the only way to like convince people is to really know it. Like you can't just be like, I don't think you're right, because then it just sounds like one person saying something against another person. Like you got to consult the documentation.
Agreed.
Sacred texts.
Yeah, sacred texts, dude. You do have to. Yeah, the tomes of knowledge.
Is the Magic rules book like a PDF that exists online? Is that like a book that you have? Like, gosh,
just get it from your local library.
I wasn't sure if you had, 2023 edition or.
Oh, I don't have it printed out. I'm not a crazy person. It's just from the internet.
Gotcha.
As Mike is hastily covering up papers behind him. I'm not a crazy person. I didn't print it out.
It's like pinned up against my wall with like lines pointing between different subsections.
I think it might be that time of the week.
Ooh. Is it the time of the week that comes every week?
Every week, baby. But lay it on me. What is it?
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike.
Mike.
What's the salty card of the week?
Salty card of the week this week.
I'm a salty girl in a salty world. Life is plastic.
I can't sing it seriously.
That's good. It only needs the one verse, the one line.
I can't even do it, man. But I still appreciate the request. This one came to us from our pal, Royal Flood. Thank you for the request, Royal Flood. I might spruce that up in post because I could not get through it without cracking up.
Or we may not.
Yeah, or maybe we don't. You never know. Mike, hit us with that salty song of the week. I mean, hit us with that salty card.
I was going to say, he's going to give us the salty card.
Mike, can you sing for us now? I did mine. And then, Tony, it'll be your turn.
There you go. Well, thank you for that lovely salty song of the week. The salty card of the week is Collector Oof.
Oh, my little buddy, my little friend.
Oof.
I'm surprised we haven't done this one.
Right?
He's never there when I want him there.
He's 1 and a green for a creature Oof. Activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. He's a 2/2. Just your general, everyday, run-of-the-mill hate bear.
So good.
Tony, how do you feel about this one?
I feel like it's never around when I want it around. This is one of those cards that like definitely goes both ways, where it's like sometimes you love it and sometimes you hate it. And I think that's true for every player. And like whether they're willing to admit it or not, like there are definitely scenarios where you're like, nice, you're shutting out my opponent. But I feel like at least with the play patterns within our own group, I feel like it's just never around when I fucking want it around. And then Sam will just like casually throw it down and be like, whatever, it'll give me some kind of value. And then I'm like, great. Oh, this is fucking great. And it's not like totally crushing me, but it's like definitely annoying enough, that it's like, I'm never like, God, this is the worst thing ever. But I'm always like, God damn it. Like, fucking oof. And it's so common to forget about it, to just like go to crack a treasure or something and just be like, actually, I'll go fuck myself. I can't do that.
Yeah, this is not for me right now.
Yeah. I'm very like, ugh. I don't like hate it, but I'm not like, yay, like fucking oof. And Sam's gonna be like, oh my God, it's oof. Like
Sam, how do you feel about oof?
Oh my God, it's oof. I love Collector Oof. I love this little guy. 2 mana, 2/2, shuts down all the artifacts. It's like the best version of Null Rod, in my opinion, because you can tutor to the battlefield with all these lovely green tutors we have, like Greenson, Zenith, Court of Calling, Finale of Devastation. It's so fun to just surprise somebody with a little Collector Oof, Court of Calling combo and really shut them down. I will say we really only ever play this in cEDH and only really see it in cEDH because it is a stacks piece, right?
Yeah.
I think if I saw it in a casual game, which I don't often, I think I'd be a little bit bummed because shutting down artifacts can sometimes just completely shut down somebody's deck, but also at the same time, like your deck should be able to remove a 2/2. But I mean, there are going to be some games where an oof comes down and you just get locked out. Like, and that shit is frustrating. So I see why it gets so much salt because I think it is one of those stacks pieces that does sometimes appear in casual lists, especially like Enchantress lists and stuff like that, where they're completely off artifacts and they don't give a shit if they shut down artifacts. In cEDH, it's a fucking banger, dude. I'm not on it in any decks right now because I'm kind of doing a little bit of a stacksless life these days. But it's so good. Man, when you land it and you shut down 3 other people, there is like no better feeling. Like the perfect stacks piece at the perfect moment. Oh, it's just so good. How do you feel about it, Mike?
I do not like this card.
It's been a while since you've been salty about the salty card of the week.
Yeah,
I just have to
true.
point out, I think for the most part, you're pretty good natured about that shit.
I have never played this in a deck that wants to play it before, so I'm always seeing it across the table. And one of the things that I hate the most about it, like Sam said, we're usually seeing it in cEDH, but it's a creature on 2, and creatures on 2 are a terrible, terrible thing to be getting tutored for, especially in like Naya, for example.
Yeah.
Because it could be Grand Abolisher, it could be Dockside, or it could be Oof. And like any of those is going to completely change the board. And often you'll get confused between one of them. You'll be like, well, it looks like maybe there's a lot of artifacts on board, so they're probably just grabbing a Dockside on 2.
Yeah.
And then, nope, it's Oof. And it's just so much worse. Instead of like going for it, they're just stopping everybody else.
I can't remember. Is it symmetrical?
Yeah.
Or is it just a
everybody? It's like a full shutdown. The best is when you like Court of Calling where X equals 3 because you can do less to like confuse people and they're like, what's he getting for 3? And then you're like, ha, it was just a Collector Oof. I paid an extra mana to trick you.
Oof.
Oh man, what a fucking great Great card. I love it. I'm so smiley over here. I can't stop.
Well,
Fucking
let's see
gross.
if everybody else is as smiley. Get your pen and papers
Ooh.
ready, or your dry erase, or your chalk.
Or your blood.
You already
Well,
have yours,
no,
Tony?
no blood
I do
allowed.
have mine.
You can't use that.
Blood muffin. How about that? You guys remember that meme?
No.
Oh, I do. The muffins meme?
The muffins meme. Yeah.
Yeah. How could you forget? How could you forget?
All right. I got mine. I'm ready.
All right. Flip them.
Mine is 78.
And mine's 89.
Well, Sam's got it. Actually,
Yeah!
Oh, shit.
it is
The first time
140.
forever.
140.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
I'm surprised, actually.
Not in the top 100.
I am too.
That's interesting because I think that, I don't know, in my mind, I feel like it's a pretty maligned stacks piece. You know, when people talk about stacks, they're like you don't really see Stony Silence. You don't really see Null Rod in casual games because Null Rod's like expensive and old. And Stony Silence is kind of bad. But like Electro Oof is, I don't know, $10, $8. It's not that expensive.
I will say, in Oof's defense, there's something about his gremlin-y little art that makes him a little bit adorable and is like slightly redeeming as well. So I think that probably is helping keep him out of the top 100.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little gremlin-y oof.
Just a little guy.
He also gets bonus points because I'm pretty sure in Discord there is a big oof GIF that's in Discord's GIF library that is just the art for Collector Oof with like a rainbow color change on it. And it just says big oof.
Amazing. Well, that wraps it up for the Salty Card of the Week. Thanks for playing.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was a lovely salty card. And thank you to our Salt Packet Plus tier members for tuning in every single week and supporting us. We really do appreciate it, y'all. And you know, we got to shout them out at the end of every single episode. And I'm going to do that now. This week we have Rothbox, Bathroom Entity, Bobo Fett, Brandon Mouse Cop, Chameleon, Captain Cross, Clearbrook, Doug's Dad, Firehawk Ash, Eebs, Joe Danson, Pez, and Bach. Thank you for all your support. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the other prospectors out there for tuning into another episode of the Howling Salt Mine and listening every single week. We really do appreciate your support. If you're hankering for more Howling Salt Mine, check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have our Extra Salt show that we're doing once a month. We have our Stray Grain series that we're putting out bonus shorts. All the little tangents that don't make it into the show get put there. So you're getting extra content from us pretty much every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. We also have a thriving Discord community where we're doing monthly game nights. And actually now we have weekly community game nights every Thursday that the other prospectors are coordinating and hanging out and jamming. People are building lists. We're having debates. We're critiquing each other's cards. We're talking about spoilers. And that never seems to end because we're always getting a new set. It's a really, really fun time. So come check it out if you want to have some more of that Howling Salt Mine in your life. Another thing you can do to help out the show is to send us your salty stories. Whether you're sending them to us through our website, which is thehowlingsaltmine.com or howlingsaltmine.com, or you're sending it to our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. Another thing you could do is send us funny Reddit posts. We're getting Reddit back into the show every single week. So if you see something, tag us in it, send it to us. However, we'll reach out to that OP and try to get that on the show. Another way you can support the show is to give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app of choice. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you. That helps us stick out in the algorithm and helps new prospectors find the show. Check out our merch on the Bonfire store. I won't go through it, but we've got a bunch of awesome stuff up there, including our new Pizza the Gathering design. And lastly, we got to shout him out every single week. Our amazing friend, JD Burnett, for gifting us this beautiful podcast art that we rock every single week. If you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina, hit him up and get a tattoo. He's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers or bust.
Indeed. Well, thanks, everybody. Stay salty, and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
It's hard because, like, when I'm on camera, I want to see my mouth. You know what I mean? But like audio is best when the
Same,
I
dude.
mean, I want to see your mouth when you're on
wanna
camera
see
too,
that
but
mouth
like,
too, dude. Oh no.
Oh, dude, there's a ladybug on my microphone.
I was gonna say, there's like a ladybug or something on your.
Ooh,
It's freaking me out.
it's drawn to the story.
Oh, don't eat it, Sam. Gross.
Oh, whoa.
Nom, 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 nom. You can't tell me what to do.
Spit it out.
It escaped from my snack jar. Yeah, I'm like a dog, and you're trying to get it out.
Out,
No,
Sam.
no. It's wrestling
Man.
me to the ground.
Locked in, baby.
What do we got? We got
Sam's
78.
not even flipping his. He's trying to fucking
He's
change
changing
it.
You have to read.
He's
right.
changing it.
Show us, Sam.
Hold on, guys.
He's changing
Or you're
it.
cheating.
Stop.
You're changing it.
Stop.
He's
Every
cheating.
moment it's off camera.
Can you
Sam,
please shut
you're
up for a
cheating.
second? Beautiful podcast art that we rock every single week. Oh God, I'm choking. That we rock every single week.
Just choking on your love of JD Burnett.
I am.